Hey everyone, let's go ahead and talk about another director that I really love, Robert Zemeckis. Yes, I've talked about him sort of before, though I feel like not enough. Zemeckis is still among one of my favorite directors of all time. For granted, you could argue he hasn't had many great ones nowadays. He's still active in directing, but he's released films that really aren't that great or memorable, especially compared to his older stuff, which is beloved. But that's the thing. His older stuff is awesome. He's made a lot of great films still. His legacy has lived on pretty nicely. So I think, judging by how many great movies he's made in the past, that should be enough to testify how great of a director he is. Even if he's not doing that great anymore, at least we're able to understand how great he was doing. And I think it's good to know that he is at least keeping his legacy nice and alive and good the way it was. His movies are still great to watch, so yeah, there's a lot of great movies Zemeckis made. It's okay to still love him. Yes, indeed, Robert Zemeckis is still one of my all-time favorite directors, and naturally, I have to eventually do a list for all dedicated to him. So today, I'm doing a top 10 list of my all-time favorite films of his. Now, keep in mind, like the Tim Burton list, it's only going to be based off of movies I've seen. And of course, I have not seen every film he directed, so this might be controversial. It's all ranked by me, my opinion, what I like the most, what films I found to be the most enduring and well put together. So yeah, if you don't agree with me, that's fine because this is list dedicated to those who are also a huge fan of Robert Zemeckis. So if you're also a huge fan of Zemeckis, then you will deserve to enjoy this list. If not, you probably will question it a lot. But anyway, I'm a fan of Zemeckis, so all that matters is what I think of this list. Am I proud of it? Maybe, sort of. I don't know. Let's just look. Okay, so we have the most iconic Christmas story ever, A Christmas Carol. We have Charles Dickens' most popular story, one of the most popular, iconic stories ever, honestly. And we have Robert Zemeckis to direct a new film adaptation of it, after there's been millions already. You think that Zemeckis making a movie based on the classic story? I mean, the possibilities are endless. What would he come up with? What will Zemeckis, a man known for creating such excitement and such simple things, what will we do for A Christmas Carol? He'll cast Jim Carrey as Ebenezer Scrooge. He'll make the whole movie in creepy motion capture form, like he did with Polar Express, and the film will just end up being this weird mess. That's not me criticizing the film. It is on the list. I liked it, though it is pretty weird. I know it is mainly the fact that it is motion capture, and that's definitely sort of a creepy type of film that not a lot of people nowadays are a big fan of. But back in the 2000s, everyone loved doing it. And I gotta say, I guess it's not that big of a problem. I mean, it made for some interesting kinds of films. And truth be told, while the Christmas Carol movie can get a little weird at times, I guess most of that does have to come from the fact that Jim Carrey is Scrooge. The film is still watchable. It does still act faithful to the story. In all honesty, it is probably one of the more faithful Christmas Carol adaptations I've seen. I guess more the fact that this time it's actually a direct adaptation and not like a crossover. Because I think most of the Christmas Carol adaptations I've seen were just like fictional characters in them. Like the ones I've seen include the Muppets, Mickey Mouse, Mr. Magoo. Fictional iconic characters in their own take of Christmas Carol. So this is one of the only ones I've seen that just goes directly into the story without any cartoon elements. And truth be told, it does a nice job at that. Creepy, maybe, but still fun. It's not too silly, even though it does have a lot of silly moments to it. It is a watchable, enjoyable film, and I guess one of the more decent adaptations. All right, so I know I'm probably not going to get a lot of popularity saying that this movie was really good. Here, when it came out, it wasn't really talked about. Not a lot of people wanted to see it. Not a lot of people who did see it really liked it. And while I kind of do understand where they're coming from, at the same time, I did really kind of enjoy it. I'll admit it definitely wasn't as exciting or awesome of a movie as it seemed like it was going to be, but for what it was worth, I actually found the movie to be pretty good. This movie takes basically is you have this one house, this one living room that's existed for so many years. And apparently there's been so many people who lived in that one house. And what the movie does is show the evolution of the house, showing it from its beginning, its older years, its lifespan, and just cutting randomly to each family who's lived in this one house. Sounds like a pretty fun premise, I gotta say. I think the real issue that people have with this movie is one thing: Tom Hanks and Robin Wright are the stars, and naturally we remember them from Forrest Gump, another Robert Zemeckis movie. Here they're playing a much healthier couple, and they seem like they're going to take up a lot of the film, and they do. However, there's other families tender to focus on. While we do focus a lot on de-aged Tom Hanks and Wright, we also focus on other families that have lived in this house. And the movie sort of goes for that, showing everything in a mistranslated order. Like we don't actually have an evolutionary film where we see old to new. It kind of just goes all over the place. Like at one point we'll see something that occurs in the 70s, the next something that occurs in 2000s, next from the 40s or whatever. It doesn't go in a timelinic order. And no, I know usually we like films that are like this, but in the sense of this, I kind of would have liked it better if they kept it in an orderly fashion because this is a very great premise and it could have been a really great movie if they just had it in a nicer order and maybe added more focus to more characters instead of shoving Hanks and Wright as the focus and that kind of just giving the other characters less care for us. Still, I did like it for what it did. I mean, I guess even though it could have done things better, it didn't do things too horribly. Still made for a pretty good film, in my opinion. Even though it's definitely not up there as one of Zemeckis' greatest, I'm fine putting it at number 9. Alright, now let's talk about another Christmas motion capture anime movie Zemeckis made. The one that seemed like it would be revolutionary for the technology, even though, in all accounts, it wasn't. The Polar Express is a pretty fun movie to talk about, but not one many real enthusiasts will look back at as saying is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Most would argue it's creepy, others would say it's bizarre. Some say it makes no sense. Me, I just think it's a magical film. It definitely is supposed to be, don't take it too seriously. It's just a kid's film. But at the same time, there is something about the message, the environments, and, kind of what we're supposed to focus on that makes this movie really fun. It's based on a book I remember we talked about in first grade. I remember first grade was when we talked about the book, and of course we had to look at the movie to see how it associates. But in all due respect, this movie really is fun in its own right. The motion capture animation is creepy at times. Yes, there are some illogical elements or things that they kind of just throw at us randomly, but it all ties together finally. I think one of the best elements is Tom Hanks' millions of roles in this film. His main role, of course, is as the conductor, a role he puts all out for because it's motion capture, so it's not just voice; he gets to perform it too, and he does an amazing job at that. But he also portrays other characters: the narrator, the father of this one boy, a homeless man that lives on the train, and Santa Claus. He has multiple roles in this one movie, and he does a great job playing all of them. It was fun to see. I really do like the message we see. We see this train that goes to the North Pole. Now, obviously, it's not one you're supposed to take seriously because most modern enthusiasts would say, okay, so this is a story about a bunch of kids being abducted on a train that they hear is going to the North Pole. Of course, it's not meant to be looked at like that. It's meant to be looked at in the sense of it's a story that's supposed to teach kids how believing will make Christmas much more fun for them or whatever. I guess it is just one of those believe in Santa Claus for God's sake kind of films, but it's probably one of the better. I've seen a lot of these movies that try to tell us let's believe in Santa Claus, but if I'm being honest, I like the way this movie does it the best. It's not the best out of all the films in general, but in terms of the message of believing in Santa Claus, I personally think this movie does a better job with that. I don't know. It's just a very cute, heartwarming film. The animation, while creepy, does create a nice, fun environment. I think it deserves to be liked. All right, now let's talk about the Back to the Future movies. Back to the Future Part 3. The third and okay, it has to be. No, yeah, it definitely is final installment. There's so many times where a trilogy gets destroyed with a fourth film, but not. It's not here. Okay, this trilogy is staying a trilogy. Zemeckis, Gale, and the cast all agree it's staying as it is. Only Part 3 was the weakest. It's still really good. I think what I have to say is the opening and the ending of this movie were awesome. We open exactly where the second film left off. Marty being still stuck in 55, finding 55 Doc Brown, telling him about the letter he got that Doc's in the Old West. They find the DeLorean. They learn that Doc has been killed in the Old West from a duel. So now he has to go back to save him and begins his adventure in the Old West. All sort of excitement happens there, right? Yes, indeed. Marty associates himself with the Old West. He has to make a name for himself, reference Clint Eastwood, hoping that that won't create any problems. Meets Doc Brown, sees how Doc Brown's just doing awesome, and apparently now he has a girl too. Yes, let's throw in a woman for him. Gotta have a love life somewhere, I guess. So now Doc has woman troubles. Okay, should be fine. They won't ruin the movie too much, will it? Well, it does drag on some things. We're supposed to focus on a duel that has to be stopped, but we got some romance to tender to, I guess. Doesn't ruin it, but also kind of weakens the film as well. Because of that romance, I found this to be the weakest. But still, let's talk about all the stuff that was great. The duel happened was awesome. The performance we get to see with Buford Tannen, the ancestor to Biff, is of course just as awesome. Then there's the final scene where they all are on the train and they have to use the DeLorean, use the train power to get the DeLorean back to the present, which of course was such an exciting and fun scene that played out pretty awesomely. We all can agree. And thus the end of the movie where Doc stays in the Old West with his girl, and now he has his own family life. It all comes together, and it's beautifully a trilogy. It is a nice, satisfying ending, though at the same time, I guess arguably there are some things this movie were could have avoided, but nothing that completely annoyed me to the point where I hated this movie. No, no, I still really liked it. I still really like this movie. Weakest, but still really good. It it was fun. It had all the excitement the other movies had. Even if some elements weren't as exciting, at least the exciting stuff was still there. And we all can agree that's good to have. Now, here's a movie that I love to talk about because it did not have to be this awesome, but it was. I have to thank Robert Zemeckis for making something that seems like it shouldn't be this great, but ends up doing something to where it turns out to be so great. It didn't have to be like this, but it was. Death Becomes Her. This is a story of a woman who doesn't like her aging face. We all can relate to that. So she finds a potion that she drinks that can apparently give her the young look forever. But of course, the side effects it has results in some crazy shenanigans occurring. Real crazy stuff happens from there on, and things just go all over the place. This movie, like I said, it seems like it's just a simple, silly premise. It really doesn't seem like anything that would be that exciting, but thanks to a lot of things, it was. There's Robert Zemeckis' directing skills, the ability to add these fun visuals to the film when there didn't need to be this many. Like, of course, the potion has to look visually beautiful, but of course, let's also throw in stuff like Meryl Streep's head turning around. Or not Meryl, I think it was Goldie Hawn, whichever one it was. Let's have a scene where one of them falls down the stairs and then their head is screwed on backwards. That should be fun to look at. Let's have all sorts of weird CGI effects that weren't entirely needed, but were thrown in, look really good to this day, and had some excitement to the film. And let's also have Bruce Willis give one hell of a performance. Yes, I have to say, Bruce Willis was the highlight for this movie, in my opinion. I know Meryl Streep's the star, but I found Bruce Willis's attitude in this film to be so memorable and fun. He's sort of the freaked out kind of person. He knows everything that's happening here is just too insane or whatever, but he delivers that role really well. I just think his shock attitude and sort of freaked out ways he is, him sort of being the normal sane one out of the bunch, is quite enjoyable to look at. I have to say, this is definitely not John McClane levels of awesome performance, but it is among one of Bruce Willis's best, in my opinion. I have to say, I really found him to be lots of fun in this movie. Again, I know Meryl Streep's supposed to get the credit. She did good too. I just think Bruce Willis's acting was a lot of fun for this film. The overall film, like I said, it could have just been a simple, bland, potentially super forgotten type of suspenseful, I don't know, plot or whatever. But thanks to the visual effects, the acting, and the insanity of it all, it was great. Let's go back to Tom Hanks now, however. And good old Castaway. Yes, indeed, Robert Zemeckis is ready to bring Tom Hanks back into the big screen with a film where he now is lost on an island. This is a plot that I would see many more movies try to do. It's become common. Lots of films do it. We have one that did it this year, and this presumably is what started off the trend. So, what is Castaway about? Well, it's simple. A guy, guy who works for FedEx, gets on a delivery plane, but unfortunately, the plane crashes, and ends up stuck on an island. He has to find ways to survive, get help, and manages to only make one friend, that being his volleyball. Of course, yes, he has a volleyball gets to talk to. He names it Wilson. He creates product placement for the film. He becomes so attached to it. He becomes so straight. He ends up being stuck on the island for literally 4 years. The movie literally addresses that it's been 4 years, and his attitude starts becoming more and more insanity. And he plays it well. Yes, indeed. This is definitely among, of course, one of Tom Hanks' greatest roles. You wouldn't know what a man how a man would act if he was stuck on an island and only had a volleyball to talk to. But leave it to Hanks to show us what that would be like. And while it can be silly, I will admit at first it was silly because I knew all the Wilson memes or whatever, and I will admit when I was screaming Wilson, I sort of couldn't stop smiling. Watching more to this movie, it was well done. Yeah, it was well done to sort of see his attitude towards having love for a volleyball, seeing how he had no other friends throughout the past 4 years, they really show great emotion to it. And they also show his evolving of growing a big beard, becoming more used to the life. They don't show the whole 4 year span, but they do show enough to really give the belief that this is really happening. And I think this movie does amazingly for it. So, yeah, props to Zemeckis and Hanks for making the idea of being stranded on an island feel genuine and realistic. Granted, I hope that doesn't happen to any of us, but we can thank this movie for letting us know why we should be more aware of if it does happen. All right, time for more Back to the Future. The second one. This one should be fun to talk about. It's a movie where they go to the future, the year 2015, which, in a shock to all of us, is now the past. Yes, 2015, the year there were hoverboards, flying cars, um, screens that talk to you at restaurants, um, and the Chicago Cubs winning World Series, or a year when we had hoverboards with wheels. Um, we had a Star Wars movie. We had iPhones. Chicago Cubs in the playoffs, but not in the World Series yet. Yeah, of course, many of us like to look back at this movie and wondering what it got right and what it got wrong. But still, let's just talk about the film on its own. We, of course, get the scenario of them going to the future to rescue Marty's son from danger, because that should be a fun adventure, right? But it results in chaos when Marty ends up dressing up like his son, trying to prevent the situation, only to have a similar dual skateboard issue go on, only this time with hoverboards. And then, of course, there's a magazine that shows off every past sporting event that Marty believes he could bet on. So he wants to take that risk of betting on money, winning a lot of big bucks and whatnot from time traveling. But Doc's like, no, we ain't doing that. But then Biff gets the book, and while the first half of the movie is them in the future, after that, the second half, the middle act of the movie, they're just in the present, which has been completely corrupted by Biff's presence. He become a billionaire. He's won so much money. He's Donald Trump now. I'm sorry. And yeah, now it's become a story about corruption and exploiting time travel. Now they have to get the book back from him by going back to the past, 1955 again, get the book, and save humanity. I explained everything that happened in the movie, so now you don't have to see it. I'm sorry, but I'll be honest, this movie is incredibly more exciting when you actually get to see it. Me explaining the plot does not do the movie justice. There is lots to enjoy with the film. While the futuristic aspect of them going to the year 2015 only takes up the first act, they show a hell of a lot of it in fun ways. You can definitely have fun looking at it and wondering, wow, did we have it awful? And then, of course, once the film gets into the other situations, you'll still be invested because, yeah, this is some crazy stuff that happens. Actual exploitation of something so big, to kind of acknowledge how this power can always fall into the wrong hands. Awesome. Of course, some nice little references to the first movie with them going back to 55 and having to avoid meeting up with their versions of themselves because it of course was the same time that Marty went back to 55. Yeah. All sorts of stuff happens in this movie. It's a lot. And I will admit, it definitely does make the third film weaker, even weaker, because there's so much that happens in this movie, and there's not a lot that happens in the third one in comparison. But still, for the film itself, it's damn exciting. Okay? Everything that happens is incredibly tempting. There's lots of, blink miss moments. You kind of have those situations where you're just incredibly invested with what's going to happen. I think I remember this used to be one film I would call the best of all the Back to the Future movies. Granted, looking back now, it's super eventful, definitely all over the place, which is a flaw in some areas, but still, it's hard not to love it. Ah, yes, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Who doesn't love a good cartoon live action crossover? I sure as hell do. I was all into those back when I saw this movie. I remember back when I was like 11 or 12, I was getting into the idea of films that cross over cartoons and real people. Not like CGI films that have CGI characters in real worlds. No, those I've already seen a lot of. I mean actual cartoons in real world situations. During this time, I was learning about films like Space Jam or, the other Looney Tunes movie, Back in Action, or other films that utilize that technology. I was invested in them. And then I found out about this movie and found out that it did so much with that idea. So naturally, I wanted to see it for that manner. And boy, did I get such a fun experience. Here we have a movie set in the late 40s where a world of cartoon characters is combined in a world of humans. We get this mystery story of a man learning about the death of Marvin Acme, as well as the murder of his own brother that he knows a tune did. He just doesn't know who it was. So now he just has a hatred for cartoons or whatever. He has to solve the mystery with the help of Roger Rabbit, of course. And of course, he has other helps. He has Jessica Rabbit, the woman that men will not watch this movie without getting too heavy for it. And the evil Judge Doom, a Christopher Lloyd character who is way creepier than he needs to be. So yeah, it's a cartoon live action adventure. Definitely the best one I've seen. I've seen great ones. I've seen Mary Poppins have an exciting adventure, but Roger Rabbit, it does a lot. It gives us these iconic cartoon characters. We got Roger Rabbit, who was, of course, new at the time. I don't think this character existed before. And of course, we got other recognizable characters that are involved. The Mickey Mouse crew are involved. The Looney Tunes are involved. Betty Boop is involved. All sorts of cartoon characters are involved in this story. We get to see the entire world of Toontown, which is a weird, wacky, kind of dangerous world of cartoons that Eddie has to go to at one point. And of course, there's Bob Hoskins' insanity to the role. I think this is a great example of casting a serious man for a comedic role. I heard a lot of comic actors were considered for the role. They're going to go with Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray, or so on. I think what makes Bob Hoskins work is because he's all angry. He's an angry man. He's a man who's about business and whatnot. So having him be about business while everyone else is just a silly cartoon character adds awesomeness to the story. The film is awesome. Okay, if you love animation, it is required to watch this movie. Like, it is not recommended; it is required for animation lovers to watch this movie. Honestly, any film lover really should be watching this film. I think it's required for any film lover, actually. So yeah, if you love film, it's required that you had to have seen this movie or will see it at some point. And now let's talk about the movie that everyone knows and loves from this guy, Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a movie that I really don't think I can say more about that hasn't already been said. It's Tom Hanks in a narration role where he is a man who isn't the brightest, but has lived through an entire century of situations. He's done so much in life. He became big in football. He joined the army of Vietnam. He took all sorts of opportunities, fell in love with a girl, and just lived through an entire exciting life of running and doing all sorts of stuff, while at the same time being very bright. There's something about that story that sparks comedy, but also sparks pure wholesomeness and joy to see. The movie adds all sorts of drama with this. We see Gump, have all these dramatic situations that his naive attitude has to put up with. It can be sad, but his character is impossible to dislike, so that definitely helps. You think he could be annoying, but no part of this movie did we find him annoying. He he's just the most likable character that I could find in a movie like this. Definitely is Tom Hanks' best performance of all time. He just has lots of charm, lots of enjoyment, even a nice bit of comedy to the role. It's a character that everyone loves to watch. See him, have all these other characters who are definitely not nice to him, but he still puts up with it in the nicest way possible. It's all fun and good. Another movie that film enthusiasts deserve to watch at some point. They have to, really. It's just so damn peaceful and fun. It's long, but there's so much going on that you won't mind that. I could just watch the movie again right now and still love it. Cannot get bored of it. It's just got so much going on. There's so much wholesomeness. Man, it's a great time. All right, so honorable mentions. These are all the movies he directed that I haven't seen. Now, I'm not planning on watching all of them, but these are just all the films he made that directed that I haven't seen. Some of them I do want to see. Films like Romancing the Stone, Contact, What Lies Beneath, Flight, those I do want to see. Other films like, I don't know, Beowulf, Witches, or freaking Pinocchio, those don't really spark my attention. Still, I do definitely want to check out more of his films at some point, so I'll try my best to watch the most of these. I definitely don't know if I'll watch all of them, but most of them I should. Until then, the list is what it is. But even if I've seen all these movies, ain't no way anything's gonna be better than this. Of course, Back to the Future is number one. It's obvious. What else can I say? The time traveling adventure that makes every other time traveling adventure look like shit. Nah, not really. This movie pretty much paved the way for making time travel movies more exciting. We've seen time travel movies before, but this one really added color and excitement to it, and I think it deserves to be thanked for a lot. Adds The visual effects are awesome, the characters are awesome, the comedy is awesome. The movie is just plain awesome. It's a comfort film. It's the best comfort movie I could watch. Okay, there are a lot of movies that are comfortable, but I think if I had to find a film that I love the most in terms of comfort to watch, this one probably takes the cake. It's a classic in many ways. I think Robert Zemeckis deserves to be thanked for that because his level of visual effects and comedic character depth is what makes the movie so memorable. So, again, if you haven't seen it, stop right once you're done with this video, watch it, okay? It's impossible that you haven't seen it. You have to see it. You have to. I don't want you to. I need you to. And not don't just take my word for it. No, no. Everyone else agrees. It has to be watched. Like has to, required by law.